Fireside Tales. Hello, I'm Merlin, Mililli. Welcome to my fireside, where I tell weird tales within tales. And I drink coffee. I have a meowing cat. Squeaky. He's loving my dummy card. So, welcome to Fireside Tales, Season 3. I drink coffee from a skull mug because I'm a deadhead. Every week here at Fireside Tales so far, the Grateful Dead has come up. The Grateful Dead is a story that I tell every... Squeaky, stop it. Every week at Fireside Tales. But, it's a band... a 60s psychedelic rock band, and I really like them and all their affiliates, including Dead and Company. There's some diehard Deadheads that don't like Dead and Company, but that's the newest incarnation, and I think now they've changed to Forever Dead, which is interesting. But they got their name, the band got their name from this ancient Buddhist story called The Grateful Dead. And I have a connection with the Grateful Dead via reincarnation. And so, besides, you know, being a deadhead, I'm a deadhead for a reason, because of reincarnation. Well, and amongst other things. But nonetheless, we discuss reincarnation here at Fireside Tales every week. And that's why I tell the story of the Grateful Dead. I'd like people to understand reincarnation better. And the story of the Grateful Dead is a story about reincarnation. I discovered my past lives through meditation and access to the Akashic records. I long ago was given a key meditatively to a place called the Akashic Records. Other people have been there, have written about it, talked about it. It's also called the Akasha. It's an ancient meditative library where every soul has a book. And where you have been, who you have been, when you have been, it's all in your book of your soul. And every soul has a book. I have a book. And my book happens to be really big and really old and really dusty. Well, it's probably not as dusty as it used to be because I've been frequenting it over the years and learning a lot about my soul. And people ask me if I visit other books, and I only did once per a request, and I just looked at the outside of it and reported what it looked like to them. I don't go in other people's books. It's just not a thing I have time for or am thinking about, or I just don't do it. So because I live in California now in this life, and California is almost always under fire danger, I discuss fire safety here at Fireside Tales mostly every week. I try to discuss fire safety. It's important to have water by your fire. I have a kettle up here that's filled with water, and I have a sprayer around the corner. I could always use coffee if need be, and milk. So, if you build a fire outside, which I think I've only made one Fireside Tales at my outside fire pit, but if you build a fire outside, you want to make sure that you line your fire pit with rocks and make sure there's nothing growing in it. And then you want to make sure you put a fire pit where there's no overhanging branches. We have moths that have come inside on the wood. I don't care for them. They eat my wool. Sorry. Anywho, so anyway, you want to make sure there's no overhanging branches. And then you also want to make sure you have a bucket of dirt and a bucket of water and a shovel. And then you can have a fire outside. Even if you have one of those fire pit things or those chimenea things, you still want to have water and dirt and a shovel, and you want to make sure there's no overhanging branches, because that stuff still spits out of those container things. So, I just don't like my earth on fire. She's hot enough. So, I have threads in my book that I talk about every week too, that connect each life to the next. And fires are one of those threads. Before electricity, humans spent a lot of time around the fire. It was very important. And stories happened there. Weird tales happened there. Familial stories. Weird stories. They happened around the fire. So fire safety has always been important to me, because I'm also, throughout all my lifetimes, I've been an earth worshiper. And the earth is very important to me. So, in future episodes, we'll get into smudging and grounding. Those things have also been important to me. We've discussed them in past episodes, but I'm not ready this season to discuss them yet. But before you do any meditating or you want to not listen to bear groan. You want to smudge and ground. Smudging is when you burn sage and you cleanse your aura with the smoke. And then grounding is when you breathe all of your negativity out Breathe in positive. Think an uber positive thought. Breathe out positive. So that you get the most positive result you can from your meditation. I do this before doing a reading. I read tarot for many years. Now I mostly just read my runes. I like the runes better. I find them to be more accurate. Anyhow, so my threads also include stars. Stargazing has always been a thing for me. Meditating, astral travel, being a psychic medium. And in this lifetime, I'm a psychic medium. All these things carry over from my first lifetime in my book all the way to all these threads, so-called threads. They carry all the way to the present time and my life now. So I'm a psychic medium in this life, and I frequent the spirit realm. And the spirits my whole life, this lifetime, have been telling me that reincarnation happens because someone has been murdered. Like you get another chance to come back because you were unfairly removed from the game. So, like I said, every week I've been telling the story of the Grateful Dead. So, this week is no exception. And I tell it by a fire, from a deadhead, as it should be told, as it was told to me. Once, long, long ago, there was a traveler. It was so long ago that she traveled by foot. And one day, while traveling along, she happened upon a village where there seemed to be quite a commotion happening. She got closer and found a bunch of villagers squabbling over a dead body. There is my peanut gallery today. So, they were squabbling over the dead man's debts and the dead man's burial. Who was going to bury him and who was going to pay for that? If he was a debtor, how dare he die with all that? The traveler thought it was all disgusting, to be honest, and she stopped them and paid the dead man's debts and paid for a proper burial for the dead man and prayed over the dead man's grave. And then she traveled on. And then, decades later, the same traveler from the beginning of the story happens upon a life or death situation in which she's scooped up and saved by a total stranger. Jesus. Who are you? Thank you. Why did you save my life? And the stranger simply says, I am the Grateful Dead. It was the dead man from the beginning of the story whom the traveler paid the debts of and paid for proper burial and prayed over his grave. Then, decades later, the dead man had been reincarnated, grew up, and recognized the traveler and saved her life. And he was grateful for her paying his debts and for her paying for a proper burial and for her praying over his grave. And he wanted to repay that debt to her. I think it's a lovely story. But some people think it's a corpse or they think it's a zombie that saves her life. But that's silly. Corpses don't save lives. And neither do zombies. So that's not what the story is about. The story is about reincarnation, and it's a reincarnated person that is grateful for what was, well, basic respect, but considered exceptional, I guess, by that person. Repayable. So like I said, my book in the Akashic Records is big and it's fat and it's old. And it has this strange watermark. The beginning of the book is all light and dry and sandy, and my lives in that part of the book are a lot longer, and that's the beginning of the book. And then the end of the book is, the other half anyway, is all wet and dark and muddy, and the lives are much shorter in that part of the book. And there's a king's list that actually marks the same thing, that there were kings that lived for thousands of years on this king's list. It's carved into stone, and it's in like 3 or 4 different languages. And it follows the same pattern as my book does, in that the lives of the kings were for thousands of years at the beginning of the list, and it baffles people. But it doesn't really baffle me because my book is the same. The watermark seems to mark the Great Flood. It also seems to mark where BC and AD change. You know, like after the flood and the waters receded, then we started writing stuff down again. I think there was a lot of recorded history, things that were carved into stone stayed, but the things that were written on paper or papyrus or whatever they used then, they actually used leather sometimes to write things down, but none of that survived the Great Flood. Not the leather, not the papyrus, none of those things survived. So it seems like we didn't record history, but it's clear that we did. We have the pyramids, we have Stonehenge, we have all kinds of carvings into stone. We even have clay tablets and clay pots, clay soldiers they found in the ground that weren't supposed to be there. Based on someone's past life recollection, they found them. They were supposed to be a myth. a lot of things were supposed to be a myth that I haven't discovered to actually be a myth. Like the Great Flood, King Arthur, those things were real, and then they were either followed up by the Great Flood or humans who wanted to wipe out certain people. There was a female pharaoh. I know. We've discussed these things here on Fireside Tales because they're in my book. So, another thing we've discussed that's in my book that is also a thread is interdimensional travel. This has been a thread of mine since my, first life. Like I said, these go from the first life all the way till now. So, today, and this whole season, we're discussing my second life, and, oh, no, we're discussing my third life. And, like I said last week, I think, and the week before, I think I was an angel. But then I fell to the state of cloud bird. It's not quite falling like Lucifer. I believe that what happened was I fought with violence for God. And you can't fight for God with violence. I only made one swing and I fell to being Cloudbird from being an angel. I guess being an angel is not horribly forgiving, but I didn't use violence against God like Lucifer, who was also a fallen angel, but he fell all the way to hell and then became Satan and all that business. So I wasn't quite that, but using violence is not how you fight for God. You have to fight for God, ironically, with love. And you have to just take hits for God. And if you want to be an angel, anyway. And ironically, I've been also making another show called The Love Show, in which we've been trying to discover exactly what love is. And I have lists of things that are love. And interestingly, they are also things that you can use, tools, if you wish, that you can use to fight for God. Because love is how you fight for God. And I found music to be my weapon of choice. So, I think I became an angel because of my interdimensional travel. But I thought for a long time that I fell because of interdimensional travel. I don't think that's the case. I have all these angel connections in other lives. My past life self was made a saint, not once but twice. one of them and then another. And Michael, the archangel, was a saint. So it makes sense. And angels are definitely one of my threads. As is light and love and stones. And reincarnation. So this time period was 10,000 to 8,000 years ago. And I lived for thousands of years as a cloud bird. And then the cloud bird died and was reincarnated. I think it must have been murdered, but I haven't really figured that out completely yet, and we're not going to cover that yet anyway. But if I'm here now, doesn't that mean that I was murdered as a cloud bird? Perhaps fighting for God, trying to get back up to angel status. And that is how you get to angel status. It's with selfless deeds. And you get to Lucifer's place by committing selfish deeds. So if you want to fast track to hell, be selfish. You want to fast track to heaven, be selfless. So there's an interesting new movie up for an Oscar. It's about a year old, I guess. It's from 2023. We're in Fireside Tales 2024 right now. And Bear is blocking my dummy card. Hi, Bear. This is Bear. He's the one that's been groaning off to the side. He's an old boy. Okay, go lay down. Did you finish your lunch? Go eat. Anywho, so past lives, it's called, and it's about reincarnation, sort of, loosely. But it's up for an Oscar, and I haven't seen too many good movies about reincarnation, but this was a good movie about reincarnation. It was a little sad at the end. You've been forewarned. But it was a good movie about reincarnation. I liked it. And I found it interesting that the woman in the movie, she is from Korea. And then she has this, I like how they layered her current life and her past lives, like, into having a past and a present. Because in our living state, we can have past lives. Like, we can leave things behind. Like this woman, she grew up in Korea, and then she moved to Canada, and then she moved to New York City. So while she's in New York City, she meets a man. Well, while she's in New York, she meets a man. And ends up marrying him. And he discovers that she dreams and talks in her sleep. But she dreams in Korean. Though in her living daily life, she speaks English. And the husband says, there's a whole part of you that I don't know, you know, and finds it strange but interesting. And I found it very interesting as well. And I've been told that I sometimes speak French and Gaelic in my sleep. So that's strange. Oh, but they discuss this concept. It's a Korean concept. She says it's a Buddhist concept. There's a lot of Buddhists in Korea. But it's the concept of yin yang. And it means providence or fate. But it's specifically in relation to relationships. And it refers to, like, the whole concept of running into someone and brushing their sleeve or their arm or a look or a smile from a total stranger and just feeling like you know them because you do, and that it means the yin yang concept says that it means that it's because you must have been someone to them in your past life. That person that you brushed or smiled at or caught a glance with. So it was a really interesting movie. It made me think. I like movies that make me think. I don't like movies that seem to take points off my IQ, which so many of them are now. And, oh, the AI writing is really bad. And you can really tell that it's AI writing. So don't use it because it really, it just stinks. So, every week here at Fireside Tales, I also sing David Crosby's Deja Vu. I did write a song called Reincarnation just for this show, but since David Crosby passed, right after I wrote the Reincarnation song, I've gone back to Deja Vu, and so we sing that now every week until I feel like changing it. So here we go. If I had ever been here before, I would probably know just what to do. Don't you? If I had ever been here before on another time around the wheel, I would probably know just how to deal with all of you. What's going on? Under the ground. Do you know? Don't you wonder? What's going on down under you? La da da, la da da, la da da, da. La da 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 da. We have all been here before. 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 So that's about it for me today. Join us next week where we discuss my cloud bird life a little bit more. And of course, we'll cover the story of the Grateful Dead again and tell weird tales within weird tales. Have a weird and wonderful weekend. Thanks for watching. A Mililli Studios production.